No buckets, no muffin tops, and no peas. So when we're visualizing this, normally we just kind of simplify it to the basic details, and it doesn't come out looking realistic. You need to make sure that you are showing exactly what you see, not what you think it is. So if you're looking at the image, that bowl is round. That needs to be represented. And the opening needs to be a long oval shape, not a muffin top. So keep this in mind when you enlarge your drawing. I am going to start off with the bowl first, kind of gauging the scale that I need it to be in. You can take it into the portrait view, but just know that it's going to be large, so it might crop off your grapes a little bit if you go in that orientation. So I like to do it in landscape, so I have more than enough room for the bowl and the grapes. Going to start off with the bowl, the top of it, and I start off with a horizontal line, but this is going to be curved in a little bit. I'm just making sure that I get in my semicircle shape. So if I turn this sideways, you should be able to see that you can complete this into a full circle. That's how round this bowl shape is. Now I'm going to correct that straight line and make it look a little more curved. So I'm going to slightly curve it under on the front of the bowl and make sure I curve the back of the bowl in an upward formation and curving those corners. You don't want pinched corners, they're rounded off. Seems silly, but count your grapes. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grapes, not including the ones that are hidden and those baby grapes up above. Pay attention to the first 3. That one in the middle goes a little bit beyond halfway. The one to the far right is right on the edge of the right side of that bowl. So I'm finding my halfway. The last 2 grapes are going to end where I've placed that mark. And I'm going to loosely place in some large oval shapes representing the first 3 grapes that you see in the very front of that bowl. Some are horizontal, some are diagonal. Check your angles. I'm going to place in these 2 that's kind of pushed in on the side. And I keep light sketches, I keep it loose. So kind of pushing and pulling, making sure things are at the right angle. They're at the right height, the width, making sure that they're not long and skinny. They need to be kind of plump. Going to place in this top one that looks like it's floating a little, and then I will just correct my shapes. You can do this over and over again until you're happy with it. And I'm placing in, well, I want to make that one a little bit more plump, and I'm going to place in my little baby grapes that I see here on the very top. So this doesn't have to be exact. You can correct and make sure things look as close as possible, but as long as they're a good size and shape, you should be good. I'm going to continue the counting with this to make sure that I have the grape or the amount of grapes that I need. And you can just adjust and readjust and check your angles for these as you place them in. I work with one that seems easiest to place in, and then I can connect the other grapes that are against it or touching it a lot easier, checking my angles, seeing where it's placed. Is it a little bit above? Is it a little bit below? Those conversations you have with yourself to talk about relationships and measurements and scale still applies with this. So you don't always have to use a crosshair or a grid line on top of your image or drawing, but you can still have that talk, that internal dialogue with yourself about relationships and scale and placement. So erase the lines you don't need, and the last thing I need to do is go ahead and place in my stem for my grape. I like to start off with a basic line shape first, and then you can thicken this up, making sure that the angles are here, making sure that it's connecting to the proper grape it's meant to be attached to. And then once you get that line shape in, you can kind of thicken that line work out a bit. Before you color your project, you should have some type of test sheet. I just have a computer paper. I'm going to set my drawing aside for a moment. Before I do, actually, I want to go ahead and trace this so I can have a second copy for our watercolor that we're going to do. So that's what I'll do. I have a light box. I'll place a blank sheet on top of what I've already drawn. And I'm going to go ahead and trace this out really quickly so I'll have that copy for when I'm ready to do my watercolor one. Okay, so I'm setting that aside. The next thing I want to do before I place in my color is I want to lighten up all of my pencil work. So that way when I place my color on top, you don't have all of these pencil lines shining through any of your lighter value colors. I'm going to take a moment, and I know you're not going to be able to see much of this on the camera, but just know that it is light enough for me to see, so I can place my color in still. It's very, very faint, and you guys need to do the same thing. So grab yourself a scrap sheet of paper, and I need you to practice your grape coloring first. I'm going to finally set that drawing aside, and I'm pulling out the colors that I'm going to use. My yellow green, my green. I might use the sky blue, and I have my brown. So I already have a bunch of examples. There's no wrong way to do your color. If yours is a little bit more bluish or greenish at the end, especially knowing that the reference image we have is more of a yellowish kind of green grape, I don't mind what it looks like as long as it looks realistic with your shadows and your highlights. So if you notice my examples, I have one that looks like a cooler green color. I have two up above in the middle that looks like it has more of that greenish yellow look that the photograph has. Whichever one you use, the version is up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. I'll just let you guys watch so you can see what I do with this. There's two ways that you can address this. Before you start though, make sure that you clean off your oil pastels. So the first way you can begin this, immediately place in your highlight. So I'm going to place a coat of white that you're not able to see. There's some white that I'm placing down right now. And then you can go in with your yellow green, kind of blend it into certain areas of that white, kind of along the edge. And then fill in the grape with that green. I'm going to leave the open space down below. And I'm going to blend a little bit of yellow into the middle area, a little bit into the highlight as well. And then that open space I left, I'm going to place some of this dark green down below. You should not trace this or outline this grape with green. You only really need it on the base for where your shadow is meant to be. So keep that in mind. Once you have that in, you should go back in with your yellow green, doing that circular motion to get those two colors to blend. And then this is just a push and pull. So you might want to use a little bit of that white to kind of help those green colors blend and lighten them up a little bit more. I'm kind of doing a circular motion over that highlight to pull some of that green into the highlight so it's not as bright and white. And you just kind of go back and forth with these color choices to smooth out the area so those little crumbs go away and your colors blend from light to dark in a nice soft transition. So for deeper shading, do not use black to get your shadows. You can use a darker version. So my darker version of the yellow green is this green here. And then you can also use that brown. That brown works really nice. So you just saw me, I placed some of that brown where my green, my darkest green is going to be. That can help you push your values to that dark color that you need to achieve. For the second grape, this is another way you can do it. If you don't like the idea of placing the white for your highlight first, you can color in the grape and the color, the green that you want it to be, intentionally leaving in a white space. Using that darker green, mixing it into that yellow green to darken that shadow area. Putting my brown there to make it go dark. I'm imagining that there's a grape underneath, as you might seen the picture in some areas inside of that bowl. So that dark brown I'm placing in is going to represent a green. I just have to make sure that I mix and coat it with my yellow green and my dark green to turn it down to the right color. And then I'm just going to go back into this grape and kind of blend my yellow green, place in my highlight, incorporate my yellow, and just keep pushing and pulling and going back and forth, making sure I'm doing that blended circular motion to get all of these colors to mix in nice and smooth together. Also, please excuse my light source going in and out. I guess my lamp was taking my focus in and out and changing my color up a bit, but hopefully you can still see these colors just fine. So I've placed my practice sheet to the side. I'm ready to begin my grape bowl. I've already started a grape actually. It's not blended in yet. I just wanted to go ahead and do some color placements. I won't talk much over this section. You've already seen me place the practice in and you understand how to do these transitions. So just view the video and follow along. So I have gone with grapes that are a little bit more green, like a cool bluish green than what you see in the picture. If you want to have yellow grapes, ones that are more yellow and vibrant, you can do that. You just need to incorporate more yellow. But I just wanted to push and pull with my yellow green and my green. I like how it turned out. So if yours looks the same way, that's fine. I'm just adding a couple of brown spaces in there to tone down all of that blue in there. And I'm ready for the bowl. So I mentioned we are not doing black on this. I want to use brown to create my shadows. Black is kind of tricky, and since we're still learning, we're going to keep it simple. You could do brown, you can do cool darks to darken these colors. I like to do brown, and what I'm going to do first is place in the darkest shadow that you see on the face of the bowl. I just realized something, that my bowl is a little bit too short on this side, so I'm just going to extend this out because I need to have room there to place my color on the inside of the bowl, my highlight there and my shadow. So I'm just readjusting real quick. And I noticed my hands were a little dirty, so I wanted to clean them up, and I want to make sure that this color doesn't get into areas I don't want it to be, so I'm concealing areas with paper. I had an oops moment, and my camera cut out on me while I was coloring my bowl, but take a look at this freeze frame and see that I used brown as a foundation to show my shadows, my values in my bowl. So I've placed in a dark color for the front of the bowl because that was the darkest. I placed in a lighter variation of it along the sides, I intentionally left white where I want to create highlights. So use your brown and color it in to represent all of your value transitions. That way, when you place your blue on top and blend it, any spot that's meant to be dark, any space that's meant to be dark is going to be dark. Any space that's going to be a medium value will be a medium value. And then any place that you intentionally left white is going to give you the opportunity to mix your blue color in there with some white blends to keep that nice bright highlight that you need. So view the freeze frame. You can even pause, rewind, and go back to it. I'm sorry that happened, but at least now you get to see that blue color being placed in so you can understand what it looks like on those value transitions with that brown as your foundation underneath. And I didn't talk about it, you don't have to have it, but I put some green on the right side of this bowl to represent the reflection that's happening because of the grapes that are bunched on the right side of it. You don't have to place it there, but just pay attention to how I address it if you want to attempt it. If you lose the reflection, that's okay. You can just have that whole bowl on that side blue without it. We're almost done, and I feel like for me personally, the background is always the most challenging. Once you get the grapes, they're fun to do. But that background, you can either address it the same or make it look the same as the photograph. I'm sorry, you can do it this way. Or you can place a table and a wall back here so you can have two separate colors so you're not exasperated with doing just one pastel or two pastels back there. You can kind of take a breather from one color. So I'm going to, well, I thought I was going to do red, but I'm actually going to change this to a purple kind of color. You'll see what I mean in a few minutes. But I need to first place down a foundation of color. So I'm going to color the whole table red first. Oh, I need my cast shadow, so I'm going to place a little bit of brown. And I'm hoping that it's going to push it for shadow. I find out later that it doesn't. I have to readjust. So same goes for you. If you place down brown for your shadow and you realize it doesn't make it dark enough, you're going to have to find a solution to push it to that level. But just watch through for a moment. I'm going to place my red down and then you'll see what I do in a moment. And I'm going to speed this up. And I'm going to say it, unless you're very ambitious like I was, keep it simple. If you're following along with mine and you want to keep it a red table, keep it a red table, because I promise you this next step is going to take so long. I decided to use a baby blue. Red and blue make purple, so it's giving me a really, really pretty purple. It just was really time consuming, and you'll see that I was on such a struggle. And you'll see me breaking my oil pastel and using the little baby pieces. So it happens. Pastel is really soft. So if yours are as tiny as this piece, don't ask me for another pastel. You see, I make it work. You can make it work too. So it's not turning as purple as I want it to. It actually ends up turning out okay in the end. You can see hints of red through it, which turned out kind of pretty in my opinion. But I run this through with my little baby pieces of blue, making sure that I'm coloring edge to edge. You don't see any white spaces along the bowl or around the grapes. Making sure you don't have any patches happening on this paper. You don't want any of that white grainy appearance. Make sure it's blended all the way through. I'm going to finish this up and place my cast shadow back in so you can see it a little bit better because I've lost it along the way. So I'm trying to bring it back, my cast shadow that I lost, and I'm placing a little bit of red back in, and then I'm going to use my dark blue instead of the sky blue to mix this into a darker purple. Okay, I lied. I'm placing a little bit of that sky blue, and maybe that's why it didn't come out as dark as I wanted it to. So now I'm going in with my dark blue and going back and forth with that and my red to see if I can get this to a darker cast shadow. So I make mistakes too. I push and pull, make sure things work for me. I know it's a little bit streaky. I don't know if I ever correct that, but come up with your own solutions to darken some shadows that you need in case that brown trick doesn't work out for you. I'm almost done, so I've learned my lesson. The table looks pretty good, but I'm going to keep it simple on the background and just do a sky blue back there, making sure I'm doing those circular motions to blend it and get rid of that white grainy appearance, conceal all of my white behind this work. But this is basically it, guys. From start to finish, this took me about 55 minutes. The video's been cut down to 45 for your viewing pleasure. I don't know if that's even helpful for you. So of course you can always fast forward, skip some parts if you understand how to do it already, so it doesn't take you so long to view this. But yes, 55 minutes, that's how long it took for me. It might take you a little bit longer because this is your first time doing it. I know I always say this. Look, I'm still over here breaking all of my pastels to little baby bits. But you do what you got to do to get it done. So once I finish with this, I'll be working on my watercolor grape bowl, and hopefully I'll have just as much fun